All right, take a live look. That is Air Force One getting ready to touch down at the Youngstown Air Reserve Station. Now 5:28. 27 First News anchor Dave Sess is there. Let's go to him live.
Yeah, they were talking about a 5:30 landing, a 5:35 chalk. Chalk means the spot on the tarmac where it's going to finish up. So they look like they're going to easily make that time. In case you're wondering, the air traffic control tower is handled by the FAA. That's what makes this an air reserve station. If they had a separate tower for the Air Force Reserve Base, it would be an air base. So this is being handled by an FAA. The first time the call sign Air Force One has been heard in that FAA tower in 5 years. Now it's disappeared behind the buildings, but it's just about to touch down behind that brown building. I think you might be seeing the roof on right there. It'll come out to the right side of it over that blue vehicle, that blue little pickup, and Air Force One looks like wheels down now. You saw the smoke from there, and we're just waiting for the nose to touch down. And nose touchdown there. The 45th President of the United States is in Trumbull County. That's the jet reverse you're hearing. It is a landing at roughly 150 to 160 miles per hour. Didn't need all of the runway to slow it down. In case you're wondering, this is a Boeing 747. Of course, when President Trump took over in the presidency, a lot of debate because this plane is nearly 30 years old. It's the only one that serves as Air Force One in this capacity. Of course, any plane that the president flies on is called Air Force One. But they want to replace these with two of them. Of course, President Trump was saying that they were just too expensive, so he's trying to get Boeing to renegotiate and change that deal, but that's still a few years down the road. So this plane has been in service since 1990. I think it has served like 5 or 6 presidents. Now, as you look down the runway, what you're seeing here as the plane makes a turn and comes down the tarmac, you'll see that the Air Reserve Station, the 910th Airlift Wing, has 4 of its C-130s out there. So as the president comes by, he will see what they actually do at this air base with those C-130s out there. And then the big plane you see, which is pointing right down the runway at you, that's the C-17, which brought all the motorcade vehicles and the other items to him. That'll be used to get him to Vienna and then on to Youngstown and then back here today. President coming to Youngstown on the heels of a big victory today with that Senate vote to start debate on repealing Obamacare. Vice President Pence breaking the tie there, 51-50. Stock market today, S&P 500 at a record high. McDonald and Caterpillar, strong earnings. AT&T, Chipotle after the bell, good profit reports as well. More good news there. And then, of course, this is starting American Heroes Week. That's why he's coming to the AMVETS today, to thank those who protect our lives and make our country the free as it is.
Hey, Dave, if you can hear us, who all's on the tarmac there
from the end of the runway? It's coming back. Well, as I told you earlier, it is Colonel Dan Sarasheen from the 910th Airlift Wing. He is here. Warren City Councilman John Brown is here. And that's the 3 that I see. There's 2 other people that I don't recognize who are in the list. There will be 5 people who will greet the president as he comes off the plane here. Of course, there is a host of other military personnel standing that you can't see that'll be up against a fence here as he comes off this plane to greet him as well. Probably 50 military personnel here as well. And then that 40-car motorcade, which is going to be taking him from Vienna all the way to Struthers and into downtown Youngstown.
Dave, he's probably going to do a little meet and greet with that Air Force contingent you just mentioned, right?
My understanding is it's going to be less than 5 minutes from plane to car to out of here. That's what they were telling me. It was going to be very, very quick to get out of here. He may wave and shake a few hands. There's 5 people at the end of the steps that coming down the plane. But if he does, it's going to be getting by his vehicle and going over to the rail to meet these people.
And then it's a quick shot down the highway to get to Struthers from there. When the one thing we were told, if you confirm this for us again, once he lands and departs, they're pretty much shutting that base and the adjacent airport down until he returns a little later this evening.
Yeah, they're not letting us stay. We have to get out. The departure is a closed event, so you won't be able to see that.
So we also know for all the
Air
people
Force
in
One
Struthers.
making the turn.
The one problem with all this, and we see this pageantry unfolding, so to speak, the arrival of Air Force One in any given airspace means havoc for neighboring airports.
That's
Pittsburgh,
exactly.
Akron, Cleveland are all going to have to divert. As long as the president's plane is up this way, they will have to kind of skirt around this restricted airspace for as long as he's in it.
And likewise, when his motorcade is driving on the roads, those roads are completely closed down. So anyone who's in Vienna right now that was trying to maybe get to the Covelli Center, probably not going to be very accessible, the roads for you to be driving, because when he's on the highways, when he's on the roads, no one else can be on them. They are closed, just like the airways are.
Even 680, if he takes that route or Route 11, the highway patrol will kind of circle his motorcade to keep anybody else that's in there out of the way, so to speak. So yes, those, as you said, if those were people thinking of catching a glimpse of this aircraft and racing down to the Covelli Center, they'll be kind of quickly pushed out of the way by the highway patrol.
Looks like the plane is slowing down. Should see the steps pop down, I suppose, any minute here. It seems like it's going to be a pretty quick transfer, as you said, Dave, from plane to vehicle to take the president to Struthers. That's where he's going to celebrate American Heroes Week. Trump and some members of his cabinet are heading to the AMVETS Post 44 on Elm Street in Struthers. They're going to be honoring about 150 veterans and their families.
He'll have a couple of his cabinet members with him, including former Texas Governor Rick Perry, as well as Veterans Affairs Secretary Ryan Zinke. They will all be coming to greet that group of roughly 100 to 150 special invitees, most of them all veterans, serving from this area in different conflicts.
And we know the First Lady is there with him as well. Now we're seeing the stairs taxiing over to the plane. Probably within the next couple minutes, the President Donald Trump, and the First Lady will be appearing at the top of those stairs. We are, of course, going to stay out here live for you. So let's talk about security. They've been preparing for weeks for this visit. There is very high security expected. We've talked with an Akron police officer who worked in private security for 20 years. He's been a police officer for 20 years. He says security for this visit has been well underway for several weeks. The roads he's going to be driving on once he leaves the airport here in Vienna, they have been checked. The overpasses have been checked. Underpasses have been checked. Manholes even. Security is the top priority.
You can see that the little contingent
All right, as you can see, they've opened the plane to Air Force, the door to Air Force One. I'll tell you, I've seen the C-5 when it was out here for Thunder Over the Valley. I thought that was an amazing airplane. I saw this C-17 down here today. This is the first time I've ever seen a 747 in person, and this is just an amazing aircraft, just huge, big. I mean, if you were seeing it, it was flying over the valley coming in south from Vienna. Just an amazing sight, huge aircraft here with these 4-jet engines. And right now, the contingent that's going out to greet him is walking out on the tarmac. They'll be at the bottom of the stairs. Dan Sarasheen wearing the hat with the Air Force Reserve. That's his wife, Susan, right behind him. And in the light tan suit, that's Warren Councilman John Brown. He's got his phone out. He's wanting to take a lot of pictures of this one. But a lot of the national press got off the back of the plane. They were released first to come out and get pictures as Trump gets off the airplane here. So the press has gotten off the back of the plane. The motorcade now coming up alongside here. So again, I think he's just going to wave, say a quick few highs, and hop right in the car and head to Struthers.
Yeah, Dave, you're talking about the
We mentioned
size
earlier
of the
during
Air
First
Force
News at
One.
noon,
Sorry, Dave. We're dealing with a little bit of a delay, everyone, so we don't mean to keep talking over each other. We're trying to fill up any void, but there is a little bit of delay from Dave's end and my end, so we don't mean to keep talking over each other. To talk a little bit about Air Force One, yeah, it's massive. It's essentially a 3-level Oval Office that can fly. Air Force One is a radio call name for any plane that the president is on, to confuse to avoid confusion with any other planes nearby. Now, it's got 4,000 square feet of space. There's a conference room, there's offices, state-of-the-art electronics for the president to be able to continue running the nation while he's up in the air. Dave, let's head back to you.
As we talked about during First News at Noon, Department of Energy Secretary Rick Perry is here. Secretary Ryan Zinke with the Department of Interior is here. David Shulkin, Department of Veterans Affairs, they're all here. I did see Omarosa get off the plane. She is already loaded into one of the vehicles in this motorcade. That's how quick some of them have gotten off and are ready to go to this stop at the AMVETS in Struthers. Of course, the only person who will come out the door that you're seeing right now is the President and the First Lady. That's where they will get off this aircraft and into that vehicle you see at the bottom of the stairs there. We're just waiting for them to get off Air Force One and resume this trip as the 45th President of the United States has landed in Trumbull County. He is in Vienna right now, and next stop will be Struthers.
Chalking of the plane.
Some of you may be asking, why Youngstown? It was one of the things that came up earlier this week in a talk with Mahoning County Republican Chairman Mark Monroe. He was saying, you know, Donald Trump's visit to the Canfield Fair last year made quite an impression on him. And of course, Donald, when he became president, Mr. Trump, excuse me, actually scheduled a visit to return here earlier, but had to cancel it. So, you know, this area has been on his mind, and now he has rescheduled a trip to come back here, and in fact, he has made it. And the president is out of the plane right now with Melania at the top of the stairs and offering a salute to all the troops who are down here waiting for him.
Yeah, Dave, you mentioned that the president had this area on his mind. I've heard a story that he also had the Struthers AMVETS post on his mind after meeting some of the folks from AMVETS during the inauguration. A couple of them shook his hand at one of the inaugural balls, actually handed him a business card, and I'm sure that helped bring him back here as well.
And the President and First Lady are officially on Trumbull County soil. They've made it to the ground, now shaking hands with some of the folks there at the bottom of the stairs. And as you actually brought up the Canfield
that was
Fair.
Dan Saracine, Colonel.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, you could see Colonel Dan Saracine when he shook his hand. He handed him something. Colonel Saracine handed Donald Trump something, which he put immediately into his suit pocket. So I think he got a pin here from the 910th Airlift Wing, which you know, I'm sure Colonel Saracine loved to share that with President Trump. And he's making his way down the line now. And John Brown, Warren City Councilman again, which you can't see behind that car, which the president will hop into, now shaking his hand, the last one in that 5-person greeting party at the end of the runway. It's a trip here again, the first presidential visit to the Youngstown area since 2002. President Obama came here 3 times as president. Of course, Donald Trump campaigned here 3 times. This is his first time back as president. The Canfield Fair, that immigration policy speech which he gave at YSU, I remember covering that one. And then he had another visit here as well to the airport side over at Winter Aviation. And the president bypassing his car right now to greet the servicemen and women that I was telling you about. That's why he's clapping right now, because he's coming over there and they're all saluting him right now, right at the rail, and he just saluted them back. And I can tell you that there are multiple branches here. It's not just Air Force Reserve members, but there are multiple branches of the media recognized in this group.